This episode of the Rainbow Brainskull Hour podcast is brought to you by Rum. If you chant Rum, 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 Rum for 8 hours a day, you can manifest your dream podcast guest, such as today's guest, my neighbor, the one and only Duncan Trussell. Hit it!
Welcome to the Rainbow Brainskull Hour. You're gonna have a good real time today. Every week there's a new guest, so that you'll learn something new. 'Cause that's all that we're here to do.
Do you sound okay to yourself?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that sound okay to you? What are you recording into here? Logic?
Yeah,
Nice.
Logic. I need to
Perfect.
change it because if there's a blackout and the computer goes out, then we're kind of fucked. So,
I think it actually saves. My computer has gone down many a time during a recording, and somehow it saves it. I think it saves it.
oh, the auto saved?
Yeah, it
yeah.
auto-saves
Sometimes,
it.
sometimes
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, but yeah, I know Marin uses a backup. I've seen he's got like a little side recorder.
Oh, is that what you're doing now? Is that what I'm trying to do a Marin where he goes, oh, is that what we're doing? But that might be old school Marin. But new school Marin is a little bit like that too. He can't shake that Marinness of him.
What is that? How would you describe
The
that?
anger, the being just like his father, the jealousy, just seeing anyone with success, it triggers something inside of him, even though he's experienced all that success. I mean, he goes into it.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing about, when I got sick in like 2013, I got better. Marin, he gave me one of the best
The
hugs.
cancer sickness?
Yeah.
The ball thing?
Yeah, he gave me like the best hug of all time. It was so sweet. And up until that point, I had been terrified of Marin. I still am terrified. Though comics like him always are, to me, a little scary. But I remember, it's like when he gave me this great hug, and he's like, I'm glad you're okay. He said something that was real.
Yeah, deep down inside, he's a softie.
Yeah, and then that's a person's soul. And that's what Ram Dass talks about, and I love that idea so much, which is that, underneath all of our bullshit is this incredible thing that is impossible not to love because it is love.
Yeah.
And once you...
It's the whole thing. It's everything.
Yeah.
The fear is only that which covers love. Love is the unbreakable, solid foundation of all existence. Otherwise, how could there be existence? Otherwise, there would be no existence.
Yeah.
So it's fear is just when you're covering up the love. It can't go away.
Yeah.
Love owns the building. Fear sometimes squats in it or rents it out or, is visiting and says he's staying for a week but
Why do you
stays for
gotta turn
months.
it into a fucking capitalist property paradigm, man? Love owns the building? What's it? Fucking love comes by. He's like, hey, you're late on rent, bitch.
But he lets him stay, though.
I know what you're saying. I love that. Love is a really confusing word, isn't it?
It can be, I guess, because everyone has their own definition of it. But it's like what? God, spirit. What else has that stigma attached to it? You can't say it's all love, man, anymore. It sounds terrible.
God,
I mean, around us
faith,
we can.
Faith.
Yeah.
You can't really say faith too much without sounding like a weirdo.
Faith sounds worse than love because love, you can be like an atheist and be like, well, I love my family. I don't know what it means, but I love my family.
Yeah.
But faith, it's like you can't have faith and be a rational person.
Respected at my party. Who here has faith? Be gone. Yeah.
Oh man, thanks so much for. I'm just taking it in right now. Thanks so much for coming on. I think we've already started at some point in the recording of
Thank
the things.
you for having me.
Yeah, I don't remember when. No, I do remember when we first met. I don't know if you remember when we first met. It was at I think South by Southwest or Fun. No, it was a Fun Fest. Or it was Moon Tower. I don't know. It was one of those comedy festivals. It was forever ago. It was still the Lavender Hour.
Okay.
And I was a big fan off of just Rogan episodes. I was like, who's this guy? This is that first episode where you played, We Want Your Soul. That song, It was just such a beautiful episode. And at the time I was in a, cubicle job, and it was like just my escape from it. I couldn't wait to go back to my desk so I could listen to the rest of that episode. And then I met you at, I think it was at one of those after parties. I was waiting to approach you, and you were getting into an argument with Charlie Sotelo about paying performers, and because South by didn't pay.
So that was Moon Tower.
Yeah, I think it was Moon Tower.
That was Moon Tower, and he approached me. It felt like he'd been preparing to talk to me or something. It's a murky memory, but then someone actually like got in front of him, or like it wasn't even getting into a hot argument. It was a very cordial beginning of a conversation, as I recall.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, someone walked away with him or something.
It was Rich Miller. Rich Miller, who is the brother of Jimmy Miller and Dennis Miller. And he just he's like got that presence. All the Miller guys have that, like, just, kind of big, intimidating, confident, East Coast-y presence.
Was I misreading that encounter? Because to me, it didn't
No,
feel...
you were in the right in it. I was like, and at the time, I was like, I didn't want to see these two fight because I wanted to be good in both. But at the same time...
Did it seem like we were about to fight?
No. Not physical fight. It was like just heated argument with little raised voice, but not like, oh, yeah, man, well, fuck you. It would have never gone to, oh, yeah, man, well. It would have just...
Wow.
Kept escalating.
That's so funny. Yeah, I was so pissed about that back then. Wait, what festival does he run?
South by Southwest.
Oh, South by Southwest. Yeah, I was so mad about that. I've heard they started paying comedians.
Oh, they did? I had no idea.
Yeah.
I haven't been back in so long.
Yeah, I heard that now the comedians do get paid for that festival. I think
because of the Hitler video, right?
I'm not going to... No, I think that Hitler video was just one part of... A movement. So just a kind of saying the obvious thing, which is that if you are putting on a show that you're charging tickets for and people are coming to see your performers, then you should pay the performers. Like, you don't get to keep all the money. That was kind of that's the basis.
Yeah.
That's the E equals MC squared. I guess you could almost call it an axiom. It's just the way things should... No, it's not an axiom.
There I was just agreeing with it. I'm like, I would have reused that over and over again as what axiom is.
I don't think we could build a philosophy off of it, but I think it's a pretty good logical argument, which is that if you're putting on a show of any type and you are charging money for tickets at the door, then the performers should probably get paid.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah, just something. Doesn't have to be a lot.
Yeah, especially at large scales. Like, if it's just a little tiny showcase, I understand if you're just trying to use that money to pay your social media person and tip the wait staff and stuff. And then if it comes down to giving one person $5 or giving 6 people 50 cents, just give the one person $5.
That's true. But we should be transparent. If you're going to if the idea is like, okay, well, no, we can't really pay you, then there should be full transparency of all the income and inflow and outflow of money, so you could show the performers, look, I truly have lost $50,000 on this event. I just want my friends and like people here to see great art, and you are part of a charitable campaign that I've started to try to get beautiful art to the people. And look, here's where we're at right now. I lost $50,000. I don't care. I want people to see this beautiful art. Then that's fucking cool. You're amazing. God, Jesus, I'm sorry. Maybe I'll help you. I'll loan you some money. But I can remember with South by Southwest at the time, this is before I had any success at all. I was dead broke. I was living off of Natasha Leggero.
You just mentioned that on the last Doug Lussenhop episode. But yeah, and as you were describing that, in my history of things, my cartoon version of you back then was killing it, is doing great. What a model success. And then mentioning that, I'm like, oh shit. And same happened with Tig Notaro. I was watching a Tig Notaro doc where she's talking about crashing in her car in 2011 or 12. And back then I saw her as this headliner that had it all figured out. And it's just kind of not in a good way. Like, I like to see that you're struggling, but it makes everything so much more real to people that, caricaturize where you might be at.
Well, it illustrates the dangers of comparison.
Yeah.
And it really shows how some people can intentionally lead others astray. I wasn't doing that. I guess I wasn't announcing.
That's a tough one to announce, though.
Well, it really is. I mean, I felt ashamed of it, and that's a sad thing because so many people feel ashamed when they shouldn't. I think at that point in my life, I should have felt bad though because I wasn't working hard enough.
Was her success driving you to, not want to try as hard because you would never get to be as successful as her, like through that path? Like, cause she's on the, like not in a bad way. She's a traditional, getting the network shows.
None of it. I think maybe in my head, I had fabricated some excuse, which is what people will do naturally. We humans like to avoid pain. Sucks. And especially the pain of like having to like get your ass in a seat and work on something where you don't really know what's going to come of your effort, and which is all art.
Yeah. So, War of Art, man. Like he talks about finishing that book. I don't have to tell you about War of Art. You've probably read it as many times as I have, or at least I don't know how many times I've read it. But yeah, book. Even after he talks about conquering that struggle and typing the end and printing it out, that book became nothing. That thing that he spent years on was nothing. He had to go live in the trailer again with that cat that wanted to kick his ass. You remember the part with the cat where he says, that cat looked at me every day as though he was deciding whether or not to kick my ass.
Projection.
Yeah.
But the problem is that you have to do that. And there is a phenomenon, I think, that happens where people can do an internal scan and they see their light in there or the potential inside of them, unrecognized potential. And you can see it. It's like a mountain being aware that there's a vein of gold deep inside of it. And then the mountain begins to act as though it were made of gold. Well, it isn't. You have to get in there, you have to get in there. And so that's what a lot of us, that's what I have done in the past. It's like, I think I looked in, I saw like, oh, fuck, look, man, there's something there for sure. And then I would walk around imagining I was that thing prior to doing all of the effort that it would require to bring that thing out, which I still haven't done. But I'm working harder now than I ever have.
Does it exist in your head as what that thing is? This podcast is just kind of like a conversation, but when I write the little description of it, I say it's about creativity, motivation, and death. And I always like to ask guests about what they're working on, like not in a, what are you working on? Plug your thing. But like sometimes people, they die with the music inside of them. It's like, look, man, I'm a comic, but I've been working on this serious music, but I can't be a serious musician because I'm associated with comedy, or they're working on some book or some. Is there anything where you're particularly resistancy with right now? And it's like at the end of the day, you're like, oh, I didn't work on that today. It's okay. I'll work on it tomorrow. Oh, I didn't work on that today.
That's meditation. For me right now, thank God, the creative stuff, just by the grace of God, it is just the grace of God. Right now it's doing okay. But yeah, that thing you're talking about is, for me, it's always meditation. It's just sitting still for 20 minutes.
You don't find the time to do it?
Oh, there's plenty of time. We all have time. Most of us. I don't.
No, I mean specifically you, Duncan. Duncan.
Oh, I have fucking time. Yeah, I have time. I know I have time. It's nothing to do with time. There's no time anything. It's just that there's a basic resistance to suffering, and if you sit still, then you have to deal with the fact that I saw the Texas Chainsaw Massacre recently for I don't know how many times I've seen it. Many times. I love it. It's my favorite movie. It's a really great movie. And that woman running at the end who goes crazy, and spoiler alert, she goes crazy. She's lost her mind. She's been trying to escape these ghoulish, cannibalistic, grave robbing Texans, psychic vampire Satanist beings. She's been running from them, and she goes nuts. But I think a lot of people are exactly like that woman in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and they've been running and running and running and running and running. Only instead of like screaming, they're grinning, and they have this like life that they've built around them, and the entire life is just constructed to evade what happens when you sit still for 25 minutes a day. Which for me, when I sit still, there's this immediate realization of how scattered my mind is. And then underneath that, there is the pain. And then underneath that is the love and the gold and the beauty. But, you know, you catch little glimpses of it. But
isn't it cool that that's at the bottom? Wouldn't it suck if there was like, and then at the bottom of the love is infinite fear and torture and everything?
We don't know. Who knows? Maybe there is. We don't know. But the thing is, you just don't know until you sit still. So for me, that's a problem. I try to escape from that practice. And then every time I do it, I love it. But when I'm not doing it, I'm tormenting myself about it. So that's a fun game. My meditation teacher, David Nichtern, puts it very well. He says it's like playing ping pong against yourself.
It is.
Yeah.
Man, as you're talking about that, one recurring theme on this podcast is I do 10 seconds of silence, and it's not even a meditation. It can be a meditation, but I like to put it at a random place in the episode wherever I'm feeling it's right. So are you ready to do that now? Yeah. So just silent for 10 seconds starting now. Wasn't that great?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the best part of the whole episode?
Yeah.
It might get better, but and that doesn't count as the same type of fear. It's like with someone, there's less fear of confronting that which is inside you. But it's surprising for me to hear that now, like my cartoon version of Duncan now post, cancer, post mom dying, post like feeling like your career wasn't going right. I imagine that now it's like way different than when you were in 2013. Like you're an actual thing now, and you've carved your own path as a podcaster. You're just a Duncan now. You don't have to be anything. All you have to be is a Duncan.
Yeah.
And what is it? Is there anything specific that's causing that resistance? You go see Ram Dass every year.
Well, there's different forms of meditation, but no, it's just basic. It's the exact same thing that kept me in the old days from like sitting down and like and working on anything. It's just a game, I think, that I play with myself.
Yeah.
So but that's a specific style of meditation. I mean, I chant all day long.
Duncan just pulled out beads, chanting beads.
I'm always chanting, but that doesn't fucking count. That doesn't count. But it does. I mean, this is the funny thing. This is the game we play with ourselves. It's you want to produce a reason for your suffering. So for example, I could say, well, God, if I start meditating, yeah, that's going to be the beginning of the end of my suffering. And that's a fun fantasy to have, isn't it? Because it gives you this impression that the room that you're stuck in, there's a door that you can go out whenever you want. But you never try the door.
Yeah.
Because you're more comforted by the idea, well, I think that door is going to get me out of this thing. But probably when you go and turn the knob, you realize that's not a real fucking door, man. I'm still in the room.
You can't leave the room.
Yeah. And so this confrontation, one way to look at it is a confrontation. Another way is the confrontation creates a bifurcation in the self. So I'm going to confront my inner thing. The reality is where you're at right now is exactly perfect, including all of the struggle, all of the freak out, all of the, I should meditate. Oh, I'm not, I'm meditating too much. I don't meditate enough. Oh, I'm getting in. No, I'm not. You're never going to, all of it, the static, the all of it is perfect.
Yep.
Including the layers of fear and guilt and neurosis and love and the sense of like, wait, maybe there isn't even that. Maybe it's just, I'm not really anything at all. Perfect. I don't think I'm really, maybe I'm evil. Could this be satanic? Well, maybe this is actually what Satan wants people to think on a profaned world, wouldn't the Lord of Darkness want people to think that darkness is perfect so they don't resist it?
Yeah.
Well, that form of thinking is perfect too. And so all we can do ultimately is just relax into what's happening now, including the non-meditation state or the meditation state. And yet we can't use that as an excuse to not meditate.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
It reminded me of, I don't know where this falls in the timeline of meeting you, whether it was around that same Moon Tower or something. I think it was when you did shows at that New Movement Theater, and I got to open for you with Chris Cubis as
fun.
well. And you were just talking to someone randomly, like around a corner, and I caught the middle of the conversation, and you started saying, like, you know that way you feel when you're having sex and it's just flowing and it's just orgasming? That's how you're supposed to feel all the time. That's how we're supposed to be feeling all the time. And at the time I was like, oh, that would be nice, but there's no way that's
I'd
true.
like to respond to that. Go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, actually, I do want to hear that response. But now, as time has gone on, it's not like it can always be like that. But at the time, I thought that state of being as a not even as a consciousness, like as a beer, I was like, no, it's too good to be true for it to be that. That is a thing that is experienced a few like seconds throughout a life, and then it gets deleted and forgotten forever, and there's no way it could be like that. But as time goes on and you learn that, it's all about the present moment and nothing isn't the present moment, and how in those sex addicts kind of describe the point of orgasm as the one point where they feel like they're nothing, like they become nothing. And the word naughty comes from the epistemology of not like nothingness. So naughty, it's like you're being naughty, you're being nothing in doing
beautiful.
That. Yeah. So
being nothing. That's so funny. Being nothing, because that's like really that's a great mantra, because what you have there is a kind of yin and yang, right? So you have being and nothingness, right? So being naughty is actually, I think that's one of like Heidegger's essays, right? Being in nothingness. That's so funny. Being in nothingness is actually means being naughty.
They can't meet. Yeah, being and nothingness cannot.
But they're fucking the universe into existence, aren't they? But we imagine there's a nothingness. This last Ram Dass retreat, Robert Thurman. Do you know who he is?
No.
Holy shit. He is this amazing Buddhist scholar. And this last Ram Dass retreat was about death. And of course, when people worry over death, outside of the physical aspects of it and saying goodbye to your family and essentially theoretically entering into a completely horrific state prior to whatever happens after death, the thing that people really get worried about is that after you exhale for the last time, there's an infinite nothingness. And that's scary for a lot of people, and for a lot of people it's comforting. Depends on what your life is like. But Thurman was saying this concept of nothingness is absurd, that it's been created by scientific materialists to rationalize their immorality.
Yep.
Because how do you dump oil into the ocean if you imagine there's some continuation of the soul or the self? So this is a really great point he made, and I love it so much, because it's basically the myth of nothingness, which is people love to throw around that word, nothingness. No, I'm being naughty. No, you're not. You're being something. Mm-hmm. You're being something-y, because you're a something, and you're always going to be a something.
Yeah. You're always going to be a you, too. You can't not be a you. You're a you.
Yeah. You're not getting out of this. A lot of people think they're getting out. You think that upon the extinction of the human body, you're out. It ends. You're free. Home free. It's another door. It's another fake door that we all fantasize. It's like we're sitting in a what could be considered a type of prison. And there's all these fake fucking doors that we imagine are going to help us get out. There's the door of meditation, There's the door of exercise. There's the door of success.
Jimi Hendrix, Room Full of Mirrors.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. Yeah, mirror doors, you could say. Funhouse mirrors, maybe.
All I could see was me. I
Yeah.
take my spirit, crash that mirror. Now the whole world is here for me to see.
Yeah, that
Sounds better when he's noodling around on it and stuff. Oh, I want to go back to that thought you said about the, orgasm, feeling that all the time. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And then you wanted to say something, and then I kept going. And
Well, I think, you have to revise sayings like that. I think that when I was saying that, I was imagining that there is the capacity within a human or a soul to be in I guess I was probably thinking of samadhi, ecstasy, some kind of eternal nirvanic state. That's what you'd be all the time.
yeah.
You can tell if somebody's using absolutes, especially if I am. I'm probably wrong.
And you're right.
I don't know.
And your third axis, because there's wrong and there's right. You're looking at one axis, and
Yeah.
then there's the other. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, the true, and the beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever thing. I don't think there's any end to where you can go perpendicular to an axis and create a new dimension. I don't think that's a thing the universe does. Like, I got it, 11 dimensions, that's it. I think the whole system is... Do you go down the holofractal
the
rabbit
whole
hole
system
at
is
all?
what?
The whole system is.
Oh, the whole system is.
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole system, and when they're saying that, well, we live in a hologram that's projected on a 2D space, like, it's holographic, but I don't think it's 2D. I think that you're not looking at... I was asking...
You're not looking at what?
You're not looking at the whole system when you're looking at anything.
Oh, okay.
You can't look at the whole system. It's the whole system. You're part of it. And
Right.
even if you're looking at a picture of you looking at the whole system, then you're a you looking at the picture of you looking
Right.
at...
This is a term. I really need to talk to Hare Krishna because I use it a lot, and I guarantee I'm not saying it right. But the term is a Syncopated Tattva, which is simultaneous oneness and difference. So it's the concept of the totality of the system being broken up by all these sort of individual sentient
What's it
pits.
called again?
A Syncopated Tattva.
A Syncopated Tattva.
Simultaneous oneness and difference. So
That could be a dance craze, too.
it sure could. It's a beautiful sound to it. It really encapsulates the problem and the solution. And so we're sort of in this peculiar situation of being within a vast, ever expanding system. And yet, because we're part of that system, and the system isn't really broken up in any way by true division. In fact, the entire thing is just pure connectivity.
Yeah.
We are the system. And yet our perceptual mechanisms are only allowing us to see the little part of the system that we're in. And yet within that system, it is holographic in the sense that within every piece of the system, the entire system is duplicated.
Indrasnet, yeah.
Yeah. So this is what we're in. And where it all goes back to is the mind wants to, and as a form of pragmatic effort, it wants to construct grids and maps and systems. And this is actually one of the things they said at this last Ram Dass retreat that I love, which is for a Buddhist, God is lists. Which is cool. But it's like we want to construct all of these, and also, in Hinduism as well. Like if you get into the deep treatises on Bhakti Yoga, it's mathematical. It's like lists, and within the list, there's subsections and subcategories and sublists. It's trying to quantify as much as it can the seemingly unquantifiable metaphysical aspects of the universe. And so there's something pragmatic about that, which is if I can quantify it, then I can work with it more than if it's just some kind of blurry thing. But where it gets really interesting is that quantification itself becomes an escape from the situation that we're in. So the idea is like, okay, I'm in this room. There's really no way out. I'm in a kind of hopeless situation. So let me start quantifying the illusory doors surrounding the cell that I'm in.
Like when you're in jail and you're counting the little like pieces of grit on the ceiling or something.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And you're making universes out of the grit, and the universes become your identity, and you cling to those little universes. And so the clinging to the universes of grit is where the suffering comes from, because instead of letting go and realizing like, oh shit, the only way out of the prison cell is to become the prison cell.
Yeah.
And then when you become the prison cell, oh, wait. I'm now a building that's filled with prison cells. And then wait, oh shit, I'm everything around that. Oh shit. And now you're free.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get it. You don't, every time you go out one of those doors, you really just, you're not going anywhere. It just goes into another cell and another cell and another cell and another cell and another cell.
And the next cell might seem cool at first until you realize it's another cell.
But it's fun. And
that's what a life is, I guess, going into those other cells.
Yeah, that's the game. And it's a blast. But it's as long as you recognize, well, you're just playing, you're doing a really very, very, very intricate, super advanced game of peekaboo with yourself. And that's fun. I mean, there's a lot of fun to be had here, and that should not be forgotten, because a lot of people start, oh, great, it's all fucking prison. Well, I'll just give up.
Yeah, there's no, what am I trying to say with that? It's easy to say that in the moment, but to live it, like just the nihilist type of people, like, well, whatever, the sun's going to blow up or whatever, it doesn't matter, everything gets erased. And I don't think in the grand scheme of things, anything gets erased. Like, you know how the sun doesn't, so the earth goes around the sun, and the sun has its trajectory, and then the galaxy has its trajectory. Everything is in motion, and nothing goes back to where it was before. Like the earth revisits its place next to the sun, relative to the sun, but it's constantly going outwards and expanding out. So when you were in that place, like when something takes place, that phrase, it's taking that place. The earth was never in that spot ever again. Sure. So I think that the universe is saving everything.
Oh yeah, that's cool too. Well, yeah, when you run into that, that's fun too. And again, but I'll defer to Ram Dass's description of it, which is like we're dealing with a bunch of different channels at once.
That's actually how I first heard about Ram Dass, was on your podcast, where you just go into, I think it was the first time Raghu Marcus was on, and just the cold open of him describing the channel selectors, where on channel 1, you just see humans, and just you see male, female, attractive, unattractive, or irrelevant. Yes. And then you switch to channel 2, you have your social identity, you think like rich, poor, where am I going? Where did I come from? Will I make it? Or am I mixing it up with 3? You can
make up your own channels. Yeah. You could decide, man. You can pick any cable package you want in this dimension. For many people, it's different, and you can break them up into just sort of basic Western psychology stuff, which is, one channel survival, another channel the game that you play with people around you, the mask that you're wearing, the game of the marketplace, whatever it is, your persona, your career, whatever. That's another channel. Then on another channel, we start getting into just the universal truth, which is like you and I are actually an us. That's another channel, or another word for that is awareness of the form, where suddenly you do it in this moment, wherever you're sitting, you can suddenly realize, wait a second, I'm actually not just the meat in the chair or on the floor or in the car. I'm everything in my perceptual field. I'm connected to it, and then suddenly you sort of blob out into the room that you're in, the space you're in. That's awareness of the form. So those are different channels, and then theoretically, through this sort of flipping up and down the channels by altering your perceptual mechanism or the lens that you're looking through, or how you're dropping filters through psychedelics or meditation or whatever, then suddenly you find yourself expanding instead of contracting, and that expansion feels quite exciting if you've been in a confined space.
Yeah.
My dog, I love watching my dogs and just how naturally they gravitate towards the one part of the yard where maybe they can get out. They're just drawn to it. Like life wants to spread out. It wants to expand. When the door opens, the dogs, they'll naturally just wander out. They're not trying to escape. They're just expanding. They want to go. We want to go.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we love it. If that's what we love. And so it's so funny because like the modern worker is often described as being in this fucking cubicle, right? So you're literally in this tiny little fucking space. You've contracted into the form of whatever it is that your company is wanting you to be in. You're wearing the clothes they told you to wear. You're saying the things they told you to say. You're acting in a professional way, which really just is a form of another way of saying you're being a good slave.
Yeah. I am a professional.
You're a subservient, like you're being subservient or I have to correct that though. That's a dramatic and stupid way to say it.
Because like a positive way of it is like, look at our cells. Our cells, you could say, are in their little cubicles and stuff. And I know they're dividing it, millions of divisions a second or something, but they're all like cooperating with the bacteria.
But I want to correct what I just said because it was totally wrong. It was totally wrong. Sometimes I do that. It's like, I guess that's hyperbole, but it's lazy. Being a servant is the ultimate thing to be, for sure. This is the thing. If you want to find them, everyone's talking about the Illuminati or the Enlightened Masters or whatever, and everyone constructs in their mind where they might be, away in some chateau, in some fucking stork mask party. The powerful ones, the great ones,
the 11 people that run everything supposedly.
Right. So the fantasy is these people are all here and there, but the reality is if you really want to find them, find the least assuming, most invisible, completely quiet, invisible person around you. Not the loudmouths, not the yappy ones, not the people with podcasts, not the famous people. No.
But around you, what does that mean?
It means that every once in a while you will cross paths with a being that is one of them. And that being is going to be wearing clothes that don't look the way you would expect them to look, doing things you wouldn't expect them to be doing. And if you won't see them if they don't want to be seen.
How do you get them to reveal themselves?
You don't. You can't control them. They push shopping carts. They put tickets on cars. They're mopping floors. They might bring you a wine at your table. They're servants, generally, though. That's one of the qualities. Sorry to out you, motherfuckers. They tend to be servants. They tend to be servants, and the work that they do usually goes completely unnoticed, and quite often is scorned or looked down upon by idiots.
I like that.
So that's one way you can find them out. Is they're usually they're not fancy at all. They're boring. They might seem incredibly boring.
They don't even have one ceremonial person that does like drink babies and by cracking their heads open and doing those rituals.
No fucking great rituals, nothing like that. They're just usually pretty dull if you're a fancy pants.
Let me see if you, I imagine you believe this too, and let's see if I'm explaining it correctly, but the way I think reality could possibly work is, let's say, take the Illuminati or aliens or any of those types of things. If you go down that path where you're deeply convinced that you're going to find them and you devote your life to it, you can find them. And if you go the other path where you devote yourself to proving it wrong, you could do that too, because you're never aware of more than just the moment in front of you. So reality could be building itself like, I'm going to prove that this shit doesn't exist and it's all nothing. And you can get to that end of the path. Or you could go the other end when you end up in the Bilderberg, Eyes Wide Shut party. And
but the answer to the great quest, as many people are on this great quest. I got a fucking message from someone yesterday who said, would you please do a podcast with people who have talked to aliens while on psychedelics?
Listen to the Positive Head podcast. They do that.
No, but I was funny because he says, well, do a podcast with people who have talked to aliens on psychedelics. Like, it wasn't enough for him that they had just talked to aliens. He wanted them to also be on psychedelics while they were talking to the fucking aliens. Like,
wouldn't it be the opposite? Wouldn't people want them to talk to aliens not on psychedelics? That's a weird request.
I just think it's like being like, hey man, I'll find some people who've talked to aliens when they're hammered. Like, I want you to like talk to some aliens when you're drunk. Like, why do I have to be high to talk to fucking aliens? That's too much. But
you compromise the data too.
The looking for aliens is very funny. It's a funny, beautiful quest because we are aliens. So that's the hilarious thing. You
mean like we're made of stardust, or you mean like on a genetic altering?
We are we are beings in a civilization in space that are putting shit up into the sky and that have satellites and technology. We're not the most advanced species ever. We're doing pretty good. We're fucking getting there. We're getting there, right? So we're looking for ourselves all the time. That's the main thing. We want to find the Illuminati. Don't look for the Illuminati. Become the Illuminati. If there was any message from them, that's what it would be. It wouldn't be like, oh, find us. You're not going to find them, but become them, and they'll find you.
Become the servant.
Yes. And so this is where it gets into one of the beautiful things Hanuman said, which I love so much.
The monkey god.
The monkey god.
Not like some DJ or something, right?
I'm sure there's a DJ Hanuman, but the beautiful monkey god that represents friendship and service and strength and courage.
And he's named Karoli Baba, right? Like Hanuman they thought that he's a reincarnation of
Could be.
Hanuman.
I mean, I've heard that floating around, but the concept is, Hanuman says to Ram, God is saying to Hanuman, what are you, monkey? And Hanuman says to Ram, when I forget who I am, I serve you. When I remember who I am, I become you.
Yeah. I was thinking about that today, and I love that one.
It's the best. It's the best. Because it gives you a little path there.
Yeah, and both of them you win. Either one you're in, you win.
That's where it gets really interesting. In the Bhakti universe, the idea is like, listen, I don't want to become... You know what I don't want to become? Fuck Bhakti. I don't want to become my wife. Because if I become my wife, then I have to be married to myself. That sucks. I would never marry myself. I love being married to my wife. She's amazing. I love it. She's amazing. It's amazing. I love it. I love like being in this kind of like, spiritualized relationship where I can work on my own identity by giving up shit that I want to try to like be less selfish and help her. It feels great. So you could take that, and that is the model for bhakti. It's only instead of it being your wife, your girlfriend, your art, it becomes God. And so the idea is like, I don't really want to get to the point of becoming the sum total of all things, because it's far more satisfying to be a servant. And then when you get into or it seemingly is, and when you get into the bodhisattva vow, this is all about like, look, it seems when you read it like, man, that's noble of you. The idea being, I don't want to achieve enlightenment until all beings are enlightened.
Yeah.
But really what that thing is actually a secret, I think. Because it's like, this is so fun.
Yeah, it's so counterintuitive too.
Yeah. But it's like this, it's more delightful to be in a world where you can go and help in whatever way that you can, than to suddenly like achieve some nirvanic state and then that's it, party's over. It's a delight to help. And as Jack Kornfield puts it,
love Jack Kornfield. He's one of my favorite recurring. Let's see, in the DTFH world, like you have.
I love him so much. I just interviewed him yesterday.
Oh, really? When's that going up? You don't know, probably.
I don't know. A few weeks. But he said, I'll email it to you. But he said, tend to your part of the garden. That's all. The thing that's closest to you that you can touch. The thing that's right there in front of you. Do that, do that, do that. It feels so good. It's such a delight. And so when you start experimenting with that game of being like, oh, fuck, wait, oh, shit, wait, I'm going to help. And you could literally do it. No, it's like you don't even have to be around a person to do it. You could like fantasize like, oh, okay, I'm drinking my fucking LaCroix. I'm going to drink this LaCroix, but as I drink it, I'm going to think about, man, I don't know how, but in some way, this is helping. This is serving. I don't even know how. Maybe it's because you're bringing liquid into your body, and at some point, you're going to save someone's life because you're in process, And the thing that you're nurturing right now in a few years might be walking across a bridge and some kid falls in some icy fucking river and you jump in and save the kid and die. And you're nurturing that thing that's going to save that kid who's going to do some beautiful thing in the world. Who knows? But the moment you shift your consciousness just like that, it's heaven. It is amazingly psychedelic to do. And it's instantaneous. You can do it at any second. And that brings me back to the fucking nasty ass fucking thing I said about the cubicle workers. Oh, you're a slave. No, you're only a slave if you think you are in that situation. The moment you recognize you're in process, and that thing that you're doing right there in the cubicle, as meaningless and mundane as it might seem, could easily be a stepping stone that leads you to a place where you're deeply needed, or you become some servant or savior or helper of the world. Then that job shifts from the mundane into the mystical. And that's a simple lens that you could look through.
And you're in it right now, listener. You're at that moment right now.
In process. Like we're saying this right now, one of your fucking listeners has got a butcher knife and is just like decapitating fucking babies. Yeah, this is it. I'm at process.
I thought that's what we were trying to get him to do. Or was I on the wrong page?
But it's true. Because when you look at so many of the gods in Hinduism, or for example, I'm obsessed with the mouse that Ganesh rides, Krauncha.
I don't even know that one. I thought I knew, I'm just getting into it, but it's such a vast universe. It's bigger than Marvel and DC together, and it's got more interlaying, things with it, but I didn't know he rode a mouse.
Yeah, Ganesh, the remover of obstacles, rides a mouse.
Yeah, the elephant god with the multiple hands.
Yeah.
Hence removing more obstacles.
Child of Shiva.
Yeah.
He rides a mouse. And
does CERN have a statue of Shiva?
Yes.
Or
I think
Kali?
I think it's Shiva.
It's Shiva,
yeah,
the destruction
could be
god?
Kali, actually. It's either Shiva or Shiva's consort. I'm not sure which.
Okay, but go on with Ganesh. I just wanted
Ganapati rides a mouse, and the mouse is called Krauncha, and the mouse started off as an asura, a demon. So the mouse was causing all kinds of trouble and ended up becoming the steed upon which the remover of obstacles, the bringer of good fortune, rides. So you may be right now in a demonic state, in the sense that you work in a job you don't like, you're doing things you don't like, you don't approve of this or that or this thing or that thing. But just the fact that your awareness has gotten to the point where you're uncomfortable in that position means that you're beginning the transformation. So when you start recognizing that, then it helps make the thing that you're in right now seem less like a prison cell and more like a temple.
Yeah.
And this is just a very simple shift of consciousness, but it starts with awareness, I guess, That's all. Sorry for that long rant.
No, that was a beautiful rant. That's why I have you on. That's why I'm a fan of yours, and this is
Thank you.
I'm very happy with this so far. Are you feeling good?
I love chatting with you, yeah.
Oh, good. Crap, what was I gonna... No, you know what? I don't think I was gonna say anything, because I'd sometimes get into a place where I'm you take in a big chunk of something, and you, in a normal conversation, if we were having coffee or something, I'd be like, damn, yeah. And then we would kind of sit quietly for a little bit. But in a podcast environment, I have this little muscle that goes oh yeah, and what was the next thing on my agenda? What was I going to say next? Because I want to create good content and keep people engaged in it. And I'm just pointing myself out for that, catching myself there.
Yeah,
on it. Do you? Something else I like about you a lot is you've got one foot in this spiritual, for lack of a better word, everything expansion one, but the people you hang out with, some mutual comic friends and stuff, people let's see, Brendan Walsh or Johnny Pemberton or Doug Pound, they're so silly. They're so silly and immature, and it's you've got both of them. And I noticed that with myself too. It's you have the people you talk serious with and the people you almost never talk serious with. It's fun to just kind of be a celebration of immaturity.
I talk serious with them, but it gets ridiculous. And also the Ram Dass people, if you think they're serious, oh please, please, they're not. That's the thing. There's just it's the if I want to get around, definitely I'll get on the phone with Brendan, and we'll spend the first 9 minutes fake fighting with each other over something that never happened. Just some weird improvised fake fight for fun. It's just fun.
It is.
It's another game of ping pong or something like that. But then Brendan and John, all my friends, like, and your friends too, I'm sure. On one level, there's that ability to like, create together and be funny together. But we're all on there's other shit going down. And with Ram Dass, my God, that guy is the most hilarious. He's hilarious.
He is.
And he is irreverent and funny and ridiculous.
He made me feel like stand-up comedy isn't as... not like ruined stand-up comedy or anything like that, but I guess McKenna too. But you see these guys that they're giving several hour talks. I'm like, that's better than any stand-up special I've ever watched. And the points were like loose and there's laughs in it, but it's like, that's a higher thing to aspire to than working on a perfect hour and getting Netflix to do it so people can watch it once and be that was pretty good.
It's just apples and oranges. It's like, that's a different thing altogether. It's a different thing.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, it seems like it would be a blast. And I know in time, like there are times I fantasize like, yeah, that's the thing to do.
Do you do it?
Because I don't want to sit and fucking write jokes.
You do when you do live podcasts. You kind of, you have guests, but it's kind of more in that realm of things, or that might even be a different thing.
Not even close, because like those guys, I mean, I have no idea what levels of preparation they put into their lectures. I mean, I know, like, if you listen to Ram Dass talking, you're looking at somebody who was a professor at Harvard who taught classes at one of the most prestigious universities on planet Earth.
Yeah, Dick Alpert.
Yeah, and so he's, was like really good, I'm sure, at constructing lectures and like getting to audiences at the class's attention and hitting certain points. And I think that framework was probably imprinted in him, and then he just stopped hanging the Western model.
The best part is that he can point out the argument that the skeptic would say before they can say it. Like when he talks about his stroke, and he's like, the stroke was so painful that I removed myself from my body and floated up looking down at myself. And a social psychologist would label this dissociation.
Yeah.
And he's just like, hell yeah, it's disassociation. That's the term you use for it in trying to make it a non-spiritually thing. But disassociation is a super spiritually thing.
Fuck yeah, it is. Yeah, he's a master at that. And they all of the teachers are masters at that. And it's because they've done work, and they have opened themselves up to becoming a conduit for this dharma, if you want to call it something heavy, and it comes out of them, and they don't even need to talk. That's the thing. You just sit with Ram Dass. He doesn't really need to talk.
You just look into those blue eyes and that smile, and it's like, that he knows everything going on inside of you, the way that that Maharaji knew what was going on inside of him.
I think that it's just a.
I mean, regardless of whether that's like empirically what's going on, it's that feeling is what counts.
Well,
right?
he really has cultivated love. And so when someone's done that and they've started surrendering to it and letting go of this thing or that thing and just choosing love over all the other stuff, over time, it just becomes what they are. So it's a love field. And love is the most advanced thing there is on planet Earth. There's nothing more advanced than it. So when you're around that energy, it will instantly heal you. It has to. That's what it does. That's in the way that water makes you wet, love heals you.
Yeah. I've said this on here a lot of times, but I just love it so much that I don't know if you've heard this phrasing of it, and I'm a big fan of phrasing things differently, although you for sure understand the concept. Have you heard of it this way, that there's love and fear, and love is seeing the other as part of you, and fear is seeing the other as not part of you. So the ultimate goal of love is to reduce entropy in this, entropic universe. And as seeing the other as you're going to help it the same way that your body, if your liver is hurting, it's going to, cells from the rest of your body are going to use their resources to help it, because it's not like, no, these are my resources.
Can I correct you, or not, throw out a counter argument for that?
Please.
I don't think love has goals. I don't think it has goals. I don't think the sun has goals. I don't think love has goals. I don't think there's.
Oh, it's. Did I say goal?
You said the ultimate goal of love is to reduce entropy.
Oh, I guess, or not of love. Okay, of a society based around love rather than fear. Love is a tool, or not. It's not a tool. It's beyond all of that stuff. But
it's interesting, isn't it? Because our identity, like basically, you want to like be able to squeeze out love, like you do turds. You know, like you want to like be able to like squeeze your body and shoot love out, or like you want to be able to like become this thing that has as your superpower a love beam that you can charge up based on certain activities and then blast that out into the universe. That's the dream. If we could do that, fuck, man, we could have love gyms. Suddenly there'd be gyms you'd go to.
Cross love.
Love
fit.
Fucking charge up your love generators. You go in the right place. You get a big, and then also we could probably start charging for it because now we know, like, oh, I've got set. You'd have to come up with some measurement for it, like I've got 7,000 quasiphotons of love right now. My God, you're filled with love. Can I have a little bit of that? Yeah, sure, $50. Oh my God, I'm going to radiate love onto you now. I think that it's what it is that it just is us, and we don't have any real control over it at all. And it comes, and sometimes it's not there, and sometimes it is there. And this is for a human being, monkey descendant, tool using being that likes to be able to dig fucking shit out of the ground and grab stuff off of trees. Quite frustrating.
Yeah.
Because our entire thing on the planet Earth has been scrabbling around to dig a thing or pull a thing or make a thing.
It's what Sadhguru says about, Sadhguru at all? The bearded guy. You might see clips of him, but he says that human beings see everything as how can I use it? If you see, a glass, how do I use it? If you see the atom, how can I use it? Of course, when you look at another human being, you're going to think, how can I use them?
That's right.
And that's all we know how to do. We don't understand anything. We don't understand a water molecule in its entirety. We just know how to use it. And it's going down infinitely. And back to...
a rose petal is unfolding. You look at a rose, it's growing. It's growing. And maybe a petal is thinking, I'm gonna really fucking, we're gonna make this the most beautiful rose. We're gonna fucking do it. Squeeze, you assholes. Unfold, bloom, bloom. Do it faster, faster. It's spring. What the fuck? We're late. It just does it. It just does it. And that's what's happening right now with all of us. That's what's happening. It's doing it.
Yeah, and I don't even think we're at the flower yet. I think we're still in the dirt. And like once we come out of the dirt, we'll get to enjoy the light. Like what I'm saying it in a positive way, in that it's there's so much more to come.
Right. And if you look at when a rose, thank God this doesn't happen, but when a rose finally
dies,
blooms pre-death. When a rose blooms, it doesn't give awards to the different parts of the process. It doesn't say, oh man, guys, I just want to give a quick thank you to the seed. It did a fantastic job down there, cracked open perfectly. I want to give of course, what would we be without the roots? Right? But it doesn't do that because it's a total process, right? So in the same way, it's like whatever part of the process you're in right now temporally, it's great. It's great. You are doing it. You are part of the unfolding, blossoming, beautiful explosion of infinite love that's growing into time right now.
Yeah.
And whether you can see whatever that is going to look like in 1,000 years or 2,000 years or 1,000,000 years or 1,000,000,000 years or 1,000,000,000 years or not, it doesn't make where you're at any less spectacular. Because where you're at right now compared to where you were, if you really want to start getting hierarchical and
I do
the evolutionary periods, and you look back when we're just little blobs floating around in some protoplasmic sea, and we figured out a way to like reproduce and DNA, and who knows, maybe we were, some kind of DNA splattered on a meteor that came from I don't know.
That doesn't make it any less impressive.
It's still incredible.
I have a joke about it where I say, like, I don't know if my parents are proud of me or if their parents are proud of me or their parents are proud of me, but I'm pretty sure that my single-celled ancestors are proud of me.
There you go. Beautiful. Exactly. Yes. That's right. Mm-hmm. And we lose track of that. That's all.
We do. It's why we're here for. I think like if you want to play with the game of, I mean, I can preface every question I ask with if you want to play the game of, because we both know that everything is everything and anything can be any configuration and and all that. But if you're playing the game of you incarnated into a Duncan, me into a Ramin in 2018, which is like right now, and we're being these two souls having this conversation, and then we're going off living our lives as we do. What did we come here to? What work is it specifically? It's not to kill people with swords and do that. It's like that's medieval time. It's obvious that it's this internal struggle with resistance of fighting that flower in you that wants to be the flower. Like you're stopping it when you don't want to write or don't want to meditate or don't want to be in the moment.
Or maybe another way to say that, which is the reverse but identical, is actually...
You just say it backwards, just satanic.
Yeah, or you're just trying to make yourself... You're trying to squeeze yourself into enlightenment, to pain yourself into joy, to whip yourself, to flog yourself into a state of ecstasy, to punish yourself into a state of self-empowerment, to shame yourself into a condition of being completely filled with love.
Let me correct your word there with shame. Do you know Brene Brown?
No.
So Brene Brown's the shame and vulnerability researcher that has this little rap about how, not an actual rap, but the same way McKenna uses the word rap, that's my rap. The shame, basically shame doesn't drive action, guilt does. So guilt is inherent to a behavior and shame is just inherent, and they found that shame doesn't actually...
Guilt then.
Yeah.
But the thing is, whatever the methodology you're using that is causing you to beat yourself to a bloody pulp because of this thing or that thing, you're actually... That action is not... You don't have to do that anymore. You can punch your fucking guilt time card. You can just do that. Don't quit your job yet, but first quit the job of kicking the shit out of yourself and feeling like some kind of sulfuric satanic egg.
Yeah.
And realize, no, you're fine. You're fine right now. You're fine. You're not a demon. You didn't come from the devil. You aren't sinful. You're fine now. That is it. And that's good enough, I think. And then see if you... Then go right.
Yeah.
Then go run. Then go to the gym. Then go do all these things,
You're enough.
Yeah.
I've only recently come to kind of feel that more. I've been so career-oriented and, like, I love products, like putting out an album, putting out books, having a thing.
Yeah.
Thinking about legacy. Like, people will write this when I'm dead and say he was a good guy, he made this, and, like... feeling that. And recently just having friends and family die and seeing like what that effect was on me. Like I wasn't thinking like, oh, if only they had released one more album or one more thing. It's like they were enough, like clearly enough. So you're enough whether you do your career or not. And they were enough, and they were here for that little time span. In the yogic way or in Hindu way, they don't say they died, they say his time ran out. And I always like that. It just means, no, that was all the time that was on your soul contract.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And definitely the career stuff. I mean, it's great. Do it. But that isn't it.
Do you beat yourself up about career stuff, or are you at a place where like, oh yeah, I'm a Duncan, I'm good now?
No, I don't so much anymore. I love my job, and I love podcasting, and no, I used to though. I mean, the thing that I beat myself up about, and in the past was I just wasn't taking risks. I wasn't exerting enough energy. That it's a really fine. You have to figure out a way to take an attitude of self-love while simultaneously, we still have to fish. We still have to get food. We still have to eat. We can't become we can't live off of loving ourselves. You know, but it's
unless you lean in entirely, I guess, like to where you're
photosynthetic or something,
or yeah, like I guess the yogas that not yogas, the yogis that just sit on a rock in Chamundi Hill or something for like 36 hours straight. You'll be surrounded by food if you just sit there and meditate.
Bring you food.
Yeah, it'll come to you. That's the trick of the universe. But if you're opening your eye once every 2 hours and darting like this way, the food won't come.
There you go.
You have to lean in completely.
But come like that, but do it with your art, and that's it. And the food will come, you know. But good luck getting into that mind state. And I've had no real success in maintaining that state of consciousness, but certainly from time to time, I find myself there and I love it. And then I fall out of it and I worry just like anybody else. It comes and goes. This is how it is. This is where we're at right now. You know?
But do you feel like it's as the years go on? Like I feel it with you being a listener and stuff. Like you're seems like you're doing better at anger. Like not that you're angry on the podcast, but just describing and stuff. Seems like of course you fall back into that pattern, but with each iteration, like fewer and fewer bugs are in that.
Listen, I do feel like there has been some shift for me that is fantastic. Definitely. It's amazing. I mean, this is like I was walking with a friend of mine. We're talking about meditation. We're talking about Ram Dass. We're talking about this thing. And he said to me, I'll be happy if I can just be like 70 or 60% less angry. I think he said angry. And I'm like,
that's a weird number. Yeah.
I was like, that is ambitious, my friend. That is ambitious. 60%? Like, man, like I'll be happy like if I could do like 0.5. but here again, we get back to this main problem, which is the moment you start fantasizing about how you're going to be this way or that way, then you are being aggressive against the way you are right now. Right? Now you're beating this you. Oh, I guess the you are sucks, huh? The you are. I got to get the fuck out of this cell. I've heard 6 cells up. There's a better cell. Gonna get there. Fuck this cell. Fuck you. Fuck you, atoms. Fuck you, cells. Fuck you, digestive system. Fuck you, mitochondria. Fuck all of you. You're not good enough. You're not doing a good enough job. And I'm supposed to be leading the fucking parade here. And I suck too. I'm gonna reduce it by 50%. I'm a machine. I'm a fucking engine. Just add this thing or that thing and a couple of gears here and put some spokes there and a worry thing there and a twirler there and I'll be better then. No, this is fine. You know, it's fine. And it's a paradox, you know, because, well, yeah, wait, you're telling me this is fine? I'm hammered. I'm addicted to cigarettes. I'm addicted to pills. I'm a rageaholic. I owe $50,000 to the fucking American Express. Been stealing from my folks. I'm a liar. I lie all the time. You tell me I'm fine now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
It's like the Neem Karoli Baba of when Ram Dass would say, oh, Maharaji, my life is so filled with suffering. And then he'd look at him and just go, mine too. Like he was happy about it.
Yeah.
And I think about it like, because there's all this talk of scarcity and abundance. And we like abundance where it's like, let's say, too much, if there's too much food in your house or something, or too much selection, it's like, that's not a problem. But if there's too many Post-it notes, too many work you have to do, too much anger, or if it's like too many women or something, it wouldn't be like, oh man, there's too many women, or men, or if you're into, or whatever thing. Like we're selective about where we want our abundance. So maybe an abundance of suffering is good. You've got your abundance. You've got so much work that'll build the momentum of feeling good.
Well, yeah, it's just, what do you have control over? What is it that you have real control over? Where is your control in the world? Where do you have control? That's a very important question. And you definitely can play around. You could just do a fun, like wherever you're at, you could just for a second, imagine this little island, like you're in whatever life you're in right now. It's just a fun little island, and picture yourself on the island, and on this tiny little island with this little palm tree, there's some coconuts. You're allowed to love yourself completely on that island. Everything you just did, everything you're thinking, all the things, all the mistakes, all the failure, everything that you've been beating, just for fun, for a little second, swim up onto this island and sit there and be like, oh, I love this. I love myself. Yeah, I do love it. I was clever when I lied to that person. That was cool when I did that thing. I shouldn't have. I know I should. I love that too. I love it. Just for fun. and see how long you can hang out on that island. You know, because pretty soon, like a pirate ship or a police boat will pull up and be like, get off of that island, motherfucker! You hedonist, you can't just forgive yourself. Get back on the prison boat. We're taking you back, asshole. You don't get to hang out on that island. You're a fucking piece of shit. You always will be. And that's fun. Because when you that's really fun. I love it when the police boats show up. It means you're doing something right, you know? And then you can say to the police, come on the island for a second. Come here for a second. See if you can get them to come on the island with you, too. You guys are great, too. Just try any kind of dumb little trick to create a minuscule little space.
I love that.
It's fun.
I'm a fan of all those just little exercises that are so easy to do. You have the PS4 or PS Infinity in your head that can make that thing happen, and we don't. Do you ever do the meditation where you imagine, like, whatever it is, like any kind of goal thing that you want in life, like actually playing out? Let's say like you want to play Madison Square Garden. It's probably not that one, but something like that.
Yeah.
You imagine it just happened and you just got home from it. It's done. You did the thing. You're not going to check your phone, see what people said about it. You're done. Like, how do you feel now?
I just fucking did it.
Yeah. It feels good now. Now I'm going to go get a lemonade from the fridge and just kind of hang out.
No, my feeling is like, whatever. I guess that was a fucking waste of time. I'm back home again. You ever heard of the Tonight Show?
I've heard the Tonight Show.
You've heard of the Tonight Show depression?
Yeah. Oh, no. Oh, after they host it?
No, after like if there's a story. I've heard it many times.
Oh, I watched the life diarrhea of Gary Shamling. Yeah.
Well, no, there's a story about how after, like, if you're a comedian, and especially in the old days, things have changed a little bit. But if you had made it your number one goal to be on the Tonight Show, and then you'd go and be on the Tonight Show, just like what you're saying. But then, like, it's done. You go to the bar after, meet your friends.
Did you watch it? Did you watch the documentary?
I loved it.
Yeah, like he cries to Bob Saget, and Bob Saget says, "Well, you'll do it again. You'll host it. You'll do more." And then eventually, it got to where he turned down hosting it. He was crying at that. Yeah, he had that post depression, and then it turned into even bigger than what he could have imagined.
That's it. That's the thing. I like your story, but I think that really the reality is, like, when you finish the big shows and you come home or you go to your hotel room, you're still right back where you were with yourself. And that you're like, great, I did it. But yeah, you still got to go and get some water. Do you have water in the hotel room? You still have to, like, you're going to turn on the TV. It's going to be Forensic Files. You might get a couple of texts or tweets or some shit from people or whatever. But you know what? It's just, you're basically right where you were.
But the difference is you're okay with yourself, at least in that exercise. Like, in your muscles ache from doing all the performing or whatever thing you did in the hypothetical, and you feel good that they ache. You feel good that your body can't move anymore. Whereas if it was just a normal day and your muscles ache and you had this idea in your head is, I have to go do a thing, it's even more conflict.
I think it reminds me of this Zen. It's that Donovan song. First there is a mountain, then there is no mountain, then there is. This is Zen.
I don't know that.
It's a great, great song. But yeah, first there is a mountain, then there is no mountain, then there is. This is a Zen koan, which is like there's like and that defines a waveform. But essentially, a human life, we create these imaginary goalposts. Oh, this is like when I run through this goalpost. Oh yes, that's a sign. I've done the good here and there. You create all these imaginary goalposts, goals. And they're just imaginary. You're just using them to sort of create an illusion of progress. Yet still, it's just you. Whatever you're doing, the thing, you're still just you. You're still dealing with yourself. You're still dealing, and it's fine to run the race. I love it. But, I would prefer to run the rat race, in the sense the race of being the rat that Ganesh is riding.
Are you fully read up on all of, have you read, I mean, you referenced the Bhagavad Gita a lot. Have you read all the Vedic texts?
Hell no. No, some of that shit is so confusing.
It is.
It's so confusing. But the Bhagavad Gita I have read, and I love it, and I love going back to it. I'm reading this like amazing breakdown of it by Sri Aurobindo, who created Auroville out there in India. You could look it up. It's the most insane. It's like a intentional community. But
what's it called again?
Auroville.
Orville, like
Yeah.
the new Seth MacFarlane show.
Is that what that's called?
It's called Orville. I don't think it's called Auraville.
Oh,
but
weird.
I like it a lot because I'm a Next Generation fan.
I don't know that Aurobindo started that place. I think it might have been one of his followers who started it. But anyway, the book is just like, you know, that you could just see his mind is so vast and advanced. And when you read his breakdown of it, when I am reading his breakdown of it, I keep saying you. When I'm reading his breakdown of it,
when
I read it, I realize, fuck, I didn't understand that book at all. But I love the Bhagavad Gita. I love it. I always go back to it. It's a perfect reference book for a life. You can just go to any page of it, and there's something there for you. But yeah, as far as the Upanishads, the Mahabharata, or those books, I know about the mythology mostly from hearing some of the teachers tell the stories, but I haven't really delved into it.
That's the same thing. Why does it have to be like that method of getting the story when that's the story? Who cares whether you read it in Spanish or the original version of it? Or if you're reading it in English, you're already not reading the original text, so you might as well just be getting the story from someone.
But some of the translations are so juicy and flowery, it really does capture some of the descriptions of that mythical or not mythical place. It's just so beautiful. And like
you're saying when it's translated, it's more
it's
floral?
the difference between me sitting and telling you about what happens in Lord of the Rings versus reading Tolkien, for example. Some of I could tell, these little fucking dudes have got to get a ring into a mountain. But when you read Tolkien, you're like, whoa, wow. Did he go there? It's like he went there.
Yeah.
And so when you're reading some of the good translations, which offhand I couldn't tell you, I do have one. It's so juicy and so creamy and so real. And when you're reading it, you know at that moment, all over the planet, people are reading it. And when you're reading it, you know all over the planet, some people are singing it in temples. You know, so you can kind of connect to a resonance, you know, that is a global resonance, or in epigenetically, it's probably encoded in a great many people's DNA since they've been hearing it since they were born, some of these stories. And so there's something really beautiful about approaching the text versus like hearing the stories. Though when you hear Ram Dass tell the story of Hanuman, it's incredible to hear it, and it's alive. It comes alive through him. And then somebody at one of these retreats was just showing me the sacred dances they do. They have dances that are designed to sort of like perfectly reenact every moment in some of the story.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And the dances themselves are yogic and have like a systematic reasoning behind every expression, and every movement is based on.
I like that.
It's incredible.
This might sound random, but have you seen The OA on Netflix?
No.
Okay, never mind. It's not going to matter. But yeah, what we were talking about, like movement.
Oh, wait. I've been wanting to watch it. I haven't watched it. It says on my list of things to watch. Is it
go
good?
watch it when you're. Yeah, I love it. I think you'll love it too.
Cool.
Yeah, watch it when you have the second. I don't know. You're probably very busy, but like when you're not busy,
I'll watch it.
But also, we have unlimited time.
Unlimited time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I try to give myself the evenings.
I just remembered something that I wanted to say earlier, and I forgot that. You know, are you familiar with the Abraham Hicks law of attraction thing? That lady, one thing I like that she said a lot is that when you were describing us as the goop of single-celled matter to make it to here, like any kind of ambition goal you have for yourself, you're 99.99999999999% there just by being here. The amount of shit that had to take place for you to be sitting here right now, and you don't even know how your body works. Like, how does your heart work? How does your liver work? How many kidneys do you have? Like, there's so much going on in here that we don't know how it even works, but we get to have one. We get to have a guy. Our guy can do whatever.
It's amazing. It's such a gift.
Yeah. I feel like I sidetracked us. No, there's a garbage truck outside. That's good.
Yeah, it is good. Thank God. Right? I mean, we think it's a garbage truck. Could be anything.
Like in that 12 Cloverfield Lane movie where the aliens come.
Yeah, fucking aliens sound like garbage trucks are fucked while sleep in.
Oh, another thing. Pardon me if these are pointed questions, but I think you can take it's not that a pointed question. You talk about a lot. How's the polyamory life going?
Now that I'm married,
Yeah.
I get this all the time.
The question of it?
Yeah.
That was such a fascinating episode. Like, you go right into it with Chris Ryan, and it was one of the most Chris Ryan stories I've ever heard. Like, a threesome with a jazz bass player that was his buddy. It's like, it's the most Christopher Ryan thing I've ever heard. It's like, I was just going to a jazz club where my buddy was playing bass. I'm like, of course you were.
Yeah,
and then,
of course you were.
Yeah, and he's just a fascinating dude. But I've witnessed some of your arc of that, and now married, because did Ram Dass marry you, or Richard Alpert married you?
Well, on the marriage certificate, it's
That's Richard Alpert. That's so funny.
Yeah. So yeah, it's Richard Alpert. It's Ram Dass married us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's still Dick Alpert.
Yes.
He's still in there.
Legally, yeah, I guess that's how he's still referred to.
And the actual him, probably. There's still a little Dick Alpert in there.
Of course.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. No, yeah, same person.
Yeah.
Same person. Yeah. So, yeah, it was some people got really angry because, like, wait, now you're married, you fucking hypocrite. It's like assuming that, like, polyamory can't happen within a marriage is hilarious.
Yeah,
but,
isn't Chris Ryan married?
Yeah.
And he wrote the book, or co-wrote the book.
That's correct.
I'm pointing over there. It's like on there somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, so right now we want to have a baby. So
Oh, congrats. Or
Thank you.
Or potential congrats.
Thank you. So humping a bunch of people right now, and the complex, I mean, not just like the problems that are associated with that, which is that, you know, what happens as a couple is you end up having, like, you could end up with a girlfriend, both having a girlfriend. But then what can happen with that is if you want to have a baby, you know, you don't know, like, if like the person you're with is seeing other people too, then suddenly it just opens up the potential.
Yeah, the lines of paternity are blurred.
Well, yeah, that, but also like just basic, like you don't want to get like, you know, I don't know the percentage of people out there who have herpes, but it's pretty high. It's like 1 out of 3 or something like that. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Many people have it, but like you don't want to contract herpes while trying to give birth, because then you're going to have a C-section probably. There's all kinds of problems that could emerge just if you're trying to make a baby. So I've found that, or we both are sort of like, well, you know what? We have to like take it easy on the polyamory thing if we're going to create life.
Yeah.
But what's beautiful about it is there isn't this sense that many people, when they get married or get in a relationship, like you look across at the other person, you're like, you're the last person I'm ever going to fuck. You're the last person I'm ever going to be intimate with on planet Earth. You're the last one. And it's beautiful at first, but over time, that can become a little...
It's the mental prison.
Yeah.
So what you're saying that right now the orgiastic lifestyle, or for lack of a better word, is on hold due to...
Well, I got to correct that, because that's another funny thing. People do think that with polyamory, this is an orgiastic lifestyle. Because like at one point we had a girlfriend, and like I think the idea was, oh God, they're just living some kind of crazy fuck life. Like they're always fucking, and it's like it really isn't like that. That's part of it, but is that like the thing any more than it is with anybody else's girlfriend? It's like, you know, yeah, of course there's intimacy, but is it like you're constantly like living in stuff? This is what one of the ways that porn has scarred us is because it's produced this ridiculous idea of like how human sexuality works, whether one-on-one or with groups of people or whatever. It's like, it just isn't porn. That's the main thing. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it, or
I think with... you
I
can't
wouldn't
plug
call
there.
it orgiastic as much as I'd call it honest. You know, an orgy of honesty.
Yeah.
And the honesty hasn't changed at all.
I like that. And it reminds me of that Patrice O'Neill bit where he's talking to people in the front row. You know Patrice, right?
Yeah,
you have
sure.
to, as a comedian, where he asked the guy in the front row, like, hey, my man, you ever, like, you and your girl ever have the threesome talk? And then he like shakes his head, it's like, not even the talk? Like, isn't it, or maybe he does say yes, but basically the point of the joke is like, it's not about the threesome or the openness, it's about the idea of like, oh, isn't that nice that she lets me let that evil out some bit? So he's
Right.
like talking to that thing. And what I get from you, it's not about the going and being with other people. It's about not being in that mental prison. Whether you are monogamous, like in your actions for the rest of your life, the fact that you're not like that
Sure.
in your head is all of it.
Yeah, and really the most important thing is honesty. Because if you get in a relationship where you're imagining that there is an attraction, that your partner isn't attracted to other people, You're out of your fucking mind, man.
Yeah, honesty is the whole game.
Yeah, give me a break. That's so dumb. Like there are couples who police each other in an Orwellian way where they're thought crimes. Like you're not even supposed to think about fucking an ex-girlfriend or someone that you see. You're not supposed to fantasize. You're not supposed to get attracted to other people that you meet. Stop. That is insane. And then you definitely can't mention that to the person you're with because they're going to see that as like, oh, I must not be enough for you. Well, you're living in a loony bin.
Yeah, but you still have to work through that because it's easy to get upset with someone for having jealous reactions or something like that. But you do need to work.
Well, that's the other part. As long as you're honest and you if like entered into a game, so to speak, where you're like, look, you're going to get jealous. I'm going to get jealous. I'm going to feel bad. You're going to feel bad. But the way we feel bad is going to feel a lot better than the way we're going to feel bad if we lie to each other as a practice in the relationship.
Yeah, it's a medicine. Medicine tastes bad at first.
It does, but you do have to sit down and you have to, like, from time to time, if you're with someone and you want it to work out, shit's been bothering you, not just about like polyamory shit, just anything.
Yeah.
You got to talk about it.
I used to let it stir up. I used to let it build up in the room, and my girlfriend's very empathic. I'll go as far as to say as an actual empath that doesn't practice. I met a guy recently that's his gig. He's an empath, like does sermons the way that Paul Selig is a clairaudient. He actually took a Paul Selig workshop, but she can feel it, so I can't hide anything. If I'm upset, she feels it in the whole room, even if I was in the room earlier and left the building, and so she doesn't even see that I'm being angry. She can feel the tension in
That's
the room.
great, man. That's so good.
Yeah, forces you to be honest.
You talk to people who've gotten divorced or broken up, and inevitably what they will say is like, we weren't talking about shit. You think you can sweep it under the rug. It's like garbage trucks. It's like if people live in a relationship where outside of the relationship is just piles of garbage.
Yeah.
Just fucking old shit and fights and like accidental affronts and intentional affronts and all kinds of just shit.
Yeah.
And they pretend it's not there. There's like, and you know what gets drawn to those piles of garbage? Not rats, fucking demons. Like that's when the demons come in. And the next thing you know, you're like living in a house with big piles of fucking garbage with demons crawling through it. Just psychic and you're going to get a vampire. The moment you've got that shit going on, inevitably a vampire is going to come into your life. That's when like one of you is going to meet an asshole and you're going to like get manipulated by that person, or you're going to end up getting like tricked by something, or someone's going to get a cold, or all this other shit starts adding up. So it's like, no, you got to take the garbage out from time to time. And you have to be smart enough to know whether it's garbage or compost, because some stuff you don't need to fucking like talk about because it's compost and you needed to think about it a little bit, you know? Because there's many times where I've been like bothered by something and then I sit by myself and think about it a little bit and then something clicks where I'm like, oh, I was wrong. Oh shit, that was just me.
Yeah.
You know, that's a fine line. Some people say, no, you can even talk about that stuff too. But the idea is you just don't want there to be, the main thing I've found is that you don't want to live in a house where there's rooms with big signs that say do not enter. So like if you're in a relationship and there's something that you're not supposed to talk about that's off limits talking about, that's bad.
Right on. That's what what Catherine said to me. It was during one of those bouts. This was years ago. Like she said that if you don't tell me how you're feeling, then we don't have a relationship. And not saying it in a then we're broken up. It's like if there's not complete over communication and honesty, then there actually is no relationship.
Right.
It's an illusion. So you can just say you're with that person and you can mark it on your profile or something. But if you're not actually having that communication, it's not a real way of relating to
That's
one another.
Right. Chris Ryan says, defer to honesty and kindness. So just like figure out a way to say it. Whatever the thing is you need to talk about, figure out a way to say it in a kind way. You know, don't get to the point where it blasts out of you and it's like a volcanic eruption. Like get to the point where you say, hey, this bothers me. This is bothering me.
Yeah.
I love you, but this is bothering me.
And if you can get to that place with someone where they don't, and it sucks if you're a calm person and the other person wants to storm out of the room or throw their phone at the wall or something. I'm very lucky in that my partner isn't like that. We're both the type that don't want to yell or storm off or anything. We just sit there in the discomfort, which is so perfect, because past relationships, it was the other way around. The person wanted to throw the phone at the wall or at you, at anything, and it's just you can't actually have a discussion with it.
I've been there, man, and I've been the phone thrower too. You know, I've been there. I've been on both sides of that thing. And
you talked about jealousy a little bit, right? You were a jealous type.
I've gone through phases of jealousy. It all boils down to communication. Lack of communication. It all boils down to, like what you're saying, is like either the person you're with doesn't want to hear it, or you don't want to hear it, or you're a coward, you're scared, or whatever. You don't want to destabilize a thing that's already. It's like people living in a crumbled, broken fucking husk of a thing and being like, I don't want it to fall apart.
Yeah.
It's already fell apart, dumbass. You gotta fucking, it's done.
Yeah, you gotta demolish that house to build the new one.
Yeah. So that's the polyamory is a big, big, big box.
Who said it to you? I think you said someone, I'm guessing it was Chris Ryan, that said, now you can suffer your polyamory.
Yeah, exactly. And that's true. It teaches you a lot. It does. It really does. And it's great. But it's a process. Everything's a process. You can get as stuck in polyamory as you can get stuck in monogamy. You can start egoically identifying as a polyamorous person because you think it's like a cool tail feather. It's hip. There's something fashionable about it. You seem edgy, brave.
Yeah.
But really, you're like, that's not really where you're at that moment. You know, you're not that right now. And so it's really, it has to be more like, fuck, man, don't get stuck in this thing or form or that thing. Because your identity or your ego wants, because you're getting like likes or faves or retweets for this thing or that. Don't do it for the retweets. It's like, what is real and honest and happening right now, and be that thing now, here, and this, not the thing you used to be. And it's a constant state of breaking the ice, because that's what happens in a human life. Is like we're like little ponds, and we freeze very easily, and that we start imagining we're the ice instead of the entirety of the pond. And so you always have to break that fucking ice.
And it's good.
It's good
that we have it, because we need boundaries too. Like, otherwise we would just be expanding into infinity at all times, which is great. But the force that creates boundaries, which that's all there is, right? There's the force that wants to expand outward forever, and there's the force that creates boundaries. That ice is the bounded state, and it's, I guess you could see it as habit too. Habit versus novelty.
Yes.
It's the creating of habit, and we need habit because otherwise our atoms wouldn't organize into one amalgam of a you. Everything would be in everything, and thus wouldn't be anything at all.
Yeah, and just to like bring it right to the real basic thing, it's like, couples, they can end up getting in a pattern where you just fuck the same way over and over again. First we do this, then we do that, then we do that, then you come, then I come, good night. Right? You could get in a fuck pattern. That's one of the simple things you can get stuck in, is a fuck pattern.
Yeah.
And like, you need to like get out of the fuck pattern. Like, don't do that. Like, that's comfort, it's great, but like make sure you're switching that up too. Food patterns, interaction patterns.
You could be a polyamorous or single person with a fuck pattern where you're fucking someone new all the time, but it's the same
shit.
Yeah.
You're not even listening to them. You're not even fucking them. You're fucking someone you fucked 3 years ago. You're that. So it's like, making sure that you're just always breaking that ice. Like, where has the ice formed in my life, and then let's see if we can like break it up a little bit, heat it up a little bit, whatever you want to call it, anything to like make sure you're in the now instead of living according to you want to be surfing the wave that is forming now, not a wave that you surfed 2 months ago. I shouldn't do surfing references because I don't surf.
I do it all the time. They're the perfect analogy, though. I've only surfed once in my whole life, but I have to refer to surfing analogies.
Yeah, don't do that, because that's a lot of people are like,
I forget
I surfed this fucking wave and I moved this way and that way, and I was sitting. Don't be in a cargo cult is another way to put it. Like the cargo cults. Do you know what those are? It's fascinating, but at some point, I think World War II, they dropped all this like cargo. They dropped like food and weapons and tools on the islands, thinking that there were shipwrecked military people there, but some of the shit landed on like undiscovered civilizations. So these civilizations have been living on these islands, basically uncontacted. And then one day, out
Alien
of the sky,
weapons.
yeah, just trunk of food and weapons and crazy shit landed. And so these cargo cults, they found them and like they try to do the shit that they were doing the day the thing landed, thinking they were in control of the thing landing.
Yeah, isn't that movie, The Gods Must Be Crazy? Have you seen that? Where
Yes!
they find the Coke bottle, I think.
Exactly. I think my dogs do it when I feed them. They try to imagine, or when I give them treats, they're like, "What were we doing? Let's try to repeat that behavior."
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of people get stuck in this superstitious pattern that is based on the way they were acting when some good thing came to them, and they keep acting that way, imagining that their action is going to reproduce that result, and it's not.
Isn't that funny that that's what all science is? But another McKenna line where he says that science is the study of phenomenon so crude that upon return to initial conditions, the phenomenon repeats itself. So you can never actually repeat the initial conditions of what made that thing happen,
Right.
even though you think you are. But science is like the rudimentary sciences. It's so crude that it's like it's not the same water molecule, but it's close enough.
Yes.
So it's going to do the same thing.
That's
hopefully.
right. That's right. Yeah, exactly. There are things that you can repeat: exercise, drinking water, getting enough sleep, those kinds of things for sure. But some people just get stuck in weird patterns where they're acting in a way they were acting a long time ago that got them this thing or that thing.
I do it in stand-up a lot, like early stand-up. Like I was just back when I'm still probably terrible if I look at myself 10 years from now, but looking at myself 10 years ago doing like these one-liners, and if one of them did well,
Right.
I would do like this little kind of jig thing, and it just crushed it during this one competition. And stand-up competitions are so dumb. And then for the next round of it, I'm like, oh, I'll do that thing again. And it was one of the worst nights I ever had. It looked so contrived, and like
Yeah.
I didn't know who I was. And it's like, you're telling jokes, or you're dancing, or what are you?
Yeah, sad. You tried to do a thing that was in the moment, and it's not in the moment. I do that all the time. We all do it. That's
With stand-up still, do you do a lot of regular stand-up sets still?
No, I haven't. I've been busy with the thing I can't talk about. I'm gonna get back into it, but
Oh, I love that you have a thing going on you can't talk about.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna press you about it.
yeah.
But can I ask a question that it's not about that thing, but a long time ago you asked me about my books and where I got books printed, implying that you were working on some kind of a book. Are you working on a book right now?
I am, but that's not the thing
That's
I can't
not the
talk
thing?
about.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that.
It's another thing altogether. But speaking of that, I do have to split pretty soon. I didn't ask how
Oh,
long
yeah.
the podcast was.
Why don't we wrap it up right now? We've gone over an hour, and
Oh, beautiful.
yeah, I'm so happy you've come on here.
Thank you for
where do you
having-
want people to? Let's see. I imagine that most of the listeners are already DTFH heads. We have a lot of
thank you, guys.
crossover
Beautiful.
listeners, but I mean, you've got a Patreon too with the bonus episodes and
Yeah.
other stuff. Is there anywhere people? What do you want people to-
DuncanTrussell.com. That's where the
DuncanTrussell.com.
podcast is located. Just listen. That's it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and hope to see
you.
you soon.
Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you so
Krishna,
much.
everyone.
Ah, that was great, man. Thank you. That was
Thank
such a
you,
great
man.
conversation. Thanks for letting me on your show.